And you've heard of Asterisk, I'm sure. The URL to remember is VUC.me, VUC.me. It's also at VoIP users with all the silly jokes I've been posting for the past 2 days on Twitter. And by the way, we have a Mastodon instance for people who are interested in this kind of technology, of course. Yeah, you're not going to get out of here. There's not going to be a break for like 2 hours because I'll be talking for another 90 minutes first. And we're every Friday at 12 noon. We're going to ask you to introduce yourselves so that the names get pronounced correctly from right to left.
Okay, hello everyone. I'm Sveti from Zoiper. I'm the new marketing manager for the company. So if you have any questions to me, please.
Yeah, very good. Hello, I'm James. I'm new here. I don't know what's going on. What, on this one? No, I've got a microphone here. So.
And one in your hand. Give it back.
Yeah, really. Give it up.
Give it back.
Give it up.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Simon Woodhead, and I'm James's carer.
Hi, I'm Kathleen, and I'm the public relations for FreeSwitch.
Alison Smith, the IVRvoice.com.
I'm sorry, I didn't get that.
Press 2 to repeat. I'm Ola.
Ola, okay. And I'm Randy, and when I say that in Britain, I get funny looks from women. Today we're going to talk about what I would call non-technical. The most technical word I want to hear in the next, 2 or 3 hours that we're going to be talking. No, it's going to be just a few minutes. Packets. And packets are just a thing that carry things. They carry bits, right? Ones and zeros. And we're going to look at a couple of examples, but I'd like to hear one word, the things that packets can carry, because IP communications in VoIP, and it could be video and so on. But what we're covering here is all kinds of things, and we're talking about the future of, the first word would be voice, and I would like to hear from everybody now the other things that, so any kind of audio, oh yeah, right, I gotta go to this mode. I've never used key point or whatever it's called, as you'll see, voice. So audio, what would the next thing that comes to mind be? A similar word, general, not technical.
So just doing a chain.
The thing that's carried over packets, over the internet. Anybody?
Data?
And shout it out, by the way, so save some time. What is it? Porn. Porn?
Porn, yeah. As in
porn.
The internet
porn.
is for porn.
Okay, video. Or, because we're talking about simple. Next, come on, anybody.
Well, users doesn't care about that and dividing between voice and video. Users care about conversations that is divided into different packets and different streams and all that stuff.
Let's get a list of these things first. There's only probably about 4, right?
Okay, I've got one. Identity is a good one. It's a cracker. Identity.
No, we're missing probably 1 or 2.
No, I'm saying identity.
I have to type it in. Somebody's 4-letter word.
What?
Chat.
Text.
Did you say chat?
Yeah.
That's right, but wrong word. Okay, what else? Anything? I'm not even sure there is anything else.
If you add fax, I will probably have to leave.
What's it?
Control.
Control is actually not data in that case, and then data covers everything, and then we're done. So one of the main questions I want to talk about today, or that I want everybody else to talk about as soon as I shut up, which probably will be never, is of these things, first of all, what do you think is the most popular right now? And each person can volunteer their opinion on what they use or what you just think is most popular. For example, everybody, when we say text, we're talking about, chat. And chat translates to what? Facebook Messenger, Google Hangouts, yada, yada. And SMS, by the way, of course. Everybody's telecom here. So which of these is the most important right at the moment? And then we'll talk about the future in a second. What would you use the most every day in your work or in your personal life?
For me, in my personal life, most used is the text, of course, for the messaging, and the video. I think that the video is the most important part of the new communications. As you can see, for example, in Twitter or in Facebook, most of the posts now are made with some moving content to attract the person's attention.
Right?
Okay, for me, it's clearly going to be the data, because we all use voice, video, and text all the time, but everything else, all of the context stuff, contextual stuff, and everything else is data. So the data must make, what, 95% of my traffic?
Does it?
Yeah, something like that.
Personally, for me, it would be text. But if I look at our network on a day-to-day basis, it's hugely weighted to video, despite us being fundamentally an audio business.
Yeah, personally, probably text. But with work, we're on the video conference all day long. So probably text, video, and audio, because we call each other as well. So.
Definitely text for me. I actually hate voice, and I actually hate talking on the phone, believe it or not. I come from a family where we state our business really quickly and get the hell off the phone. So I'm not a big fan of talking on the phone, oddly.
Well,
I mean, I'm sitting here as the leftovers. It's only DTMF left here, and I don't like that either. I don't think that users see it this way. I see that most conversations today begin with chats and text messaging, but in those channels, they add videos and GIFs of cats. Dan Jenkins is a perfect, chatting with him will probably only be GIFs that I have to parse and try to understand, so it will be a slow chat. But the chat quickly evolves into a conversation that needs faster communication than chat for old people. Young people communicate fast with chat, I've seen that. So we begin with chat, then we add video, audio, and then go back maybe to chat only.
What about
so
data?
I don't think this thing, the list you had on the screen, makes sense for the users anymore, because it's all conversations.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of my point. Your list just doesn't make very much sense.
I said it, James.
Yeah, well,
Wow.
I'm agreeing with you.
Where's the echo canceller here?
I do want to ask Lorenzo what's his preferred way.
Well, I was going to say something about the speed of Lorenzo's texting. Go ahead.
No, I actually talk faster than I type, I'm afraid. So.
That's excellent.
No. Actually, I'm pretty much like Alison. I really don't like. I think I've not used my phone to do a phone call in a year or something like this. I only, as everybody said, pretty much, as Ole said in particular, pretty much everything starts with text anyway, and then it escalates to something else. But I agree that video is probably the most important media right now.
I think everybody's probably made thousands of voice calls, but it's only calling yourself on another number to check your VoIP stuff out, right? Everybody does that. Big long list in your history, call history, it's all your own number. Well, it's true. It must be true about video because Facebook's pushing video hard. Twitter's gotten into video, which to me, well, let's not get started on that.
But an interesting trend is that one of the hottest topics right now is bots, text chat box. So the command line interface applications that we used to have in the VT52 terminals is somehow coming back. But chatting with a bot now involves getting responses in video films or other things. So I find that very, very interesting.
I was just going to ask, because I was recently in the US very briefly, and I was absolutely shocked to see, compared to here, the number of people who were talking on FaceTime or Hangout like video conference, one-to-one conferences. A lot of young women, so maybe that's a thing, but yet I see the same number of young women in France where I live or here on the street, and I'm very observant on the street. I love to watch people. You don't see many people in Germany going like this with an obvious screen. Maybe, I don't know if it's because of the cost of communication or what, but in the States, it's very common. How many of you do video chats one-to-one in your life? Just not necessarily professional, but...
All the time.
That's a pretty good number, about 1/3 maybe. And on the panel,
Yeah.
day to day, is it
Yes.
with your kids or will they not
Everybody.
talk to you, Oldie?
I sit in a video chat all day with Sharon, our project manager. I mean, we just sit there and work, and then, you know, if I need to screen share something.
And that may be more common these days in businesses or teamwork, right, is the collaboration. Because you got that point that's always on, the water fountain type thing. Isn't that what you're doing there?
Yeah, and there's more to it than just the video chat, because when I'm working with Andy, we're working on the same document at the same time, or screen sharing, or doing something. So it's
Sharing
more,
YouTube video
it's more than just video.
Okay.
But then again, we are quite modern.
Yeah, that's true. What about these invitations that we get to share? Tell me this isn't a young thing. That you get these invitations to share videos. So there's two people talking on video, and then they're going to show each other. One of them shows the other a video, and they're commenting it. Is that a thing that people do?
Yeah.
I mean, it is a thing that people do, but is that more of a what's the name of the Snapchat type thing, or is that a thing that people do of all ages, or am I that out of it?
One of the most popular ones, and I admit that I didn't use it, is the Facebook Live. So whatever you're drinking coffee with your friend, or you're at a conference like Kamailio, you can just stream live on Facebook and the people would access it. It's very, very trendy, for example, in my country, but I think also in Germany.
Yeah, and you know, we've tried it, haven't we, with Periscope and things like that.
Yeah, I have to admit, I actually periscoped part of, I already forgot I think it was Ule. And we had a very high number of people. I think we got up to a maximum of 4 people were watching. I only had it on for a couple of minutes. Oh, by the way, the VUC holds the record on Periscope. You know what I'm going to say, Andy. The VUC, our conference, we were doing a run-in on Periscope. We did a live with the producer, so I was broadcasting our little private chat, which was, we knew it was on, so we weren't saying anything crazy, right before the theme and the beginning of the VUC conference. And we hold the all-time record, and we still hold it today, of the length of time going over an hour without anyone typing in the chat, "Take your top off." So I think that deserves
a surprise.
All right, so now about the future. In 1923, I think it was, Igor Stravinsky played The Rites of Spring in Paris, and the audience walked out. They thought it was just too dissonant, couldn't dig it. Today, that would be nothing. It's very respected work. It's a little cacophonic, but we're talking about videos, and if I may be a little vulgar, there's so much noise on all of these channels. Video is just more noise in a lot of ways to me. Now, there may be great videos. All right, one-to-one video, that's another thing. But when we talk about Facebook Live, I mean, 99% of that, and Periscope for sure, and if you switch around these channels, I mean, it's kind of just kids that are bored. So what is the future of this? What are we going to see, like live, heart surgery? Or what's the point? And what is the value of that, since video is supposed to be the big thing?
Well, in the U.S., we had the giraffe. There was a giraffe at a zoo that everyone got really excited about, and they live streamed the latter half of the pregnancy and then the birth, and that got huge. Like that a lot of people watched it. So I think
that's a good example, actually.
I had the same story about storks in Sofia, and it was a love story because he left her.
Oh, dear. So the question is, what are we going?
What's the future of this? What
are we going to see? What's the future?
Where is that going to go?
Well, I think we're going to see a whole load of intelligence in the network. The big problem we have at the moment is that there's just too much going on. There's too much information, and the human brain just can't absorb it. You don't know what to watch. You don't know what's interesting or important to you. So what you need is some kind of intelligence out there that does this filtering for you. And when something happens that ticks your boxes, it lets you know about it.
Tick your boxes. I like that. Isn't what that is your peer network, though? On Facebook, precisely, or on whatever it is? That's what... Those are the people, the trusted network, whatever that's called.
I think it's got a long way to go. And the key to it is the intelligence in the artificial intelligence bit, because a lot of the things that are out there at the moment aren't particularly intelligent. They follow rules, but they don't learn. And it's the learning bit that's really important, I think.
Similar to the advertising technology that when you buy a mattress, you then have 6 months after you've bought it of mattress ads? Is that the intelligence you're talking about?
Well, I say that's not intelligence.
That's a bad example. Uday, I saw you grabbing the microphone. Go ahead.
Well, I can only say that, I mean, I have a massive amount of email flowing still. Yeah, I'm an old man. I read a lot of email. And my mail filters fail to work. Release after release of Apple Mail. I still have to spend hours every week of finding important mails in the spam box. I believe, as James, that this is something we need, but we're seeing toys today. We need something more like my wife, but also unpredictable.
Wait a minute.
I still like...
What's that?
My wife filters a lot of important stuff for me and reminds me of the important stuff. And no computer have succeeded in doing that. But where was I going? Miriam, of course.
As soon as he starts thinking about his wife.
I'll be coming back to... Sorry.
Okay, anybody else have any ideas on this?
On the social media side, I personally feel we've got to be heading for rebellion. I left Facebook many years ago because it was just costing too many relationships. And I don't miss it at all. I now don't go on Twitter as much because it was just unnecessary noise and it made me cross. So I find the number of channels I'm on continually diminishing because there was too many of them. And I know friends that are still on Facebook that are now kind of read-only. You know, they're not putting pictures of their dinner on there like they might have done 5 years ago. They're just seeing what everybody else is up to. And I feel the trend has to be in that direction because, as Ole says, there's only so many toys that you can actually find remotely interesting. And eventually you just get bored of playing altogether.
I actually just recently went off Facebook for a couple of weeks just to see what it would be like, and it was bliss. It was so wonderful. I instantly felt calmer, and I got overwhelmed with the navel gazing, and there's too much introspection. So to answer your question, I think it'll get worse, and then I think we'll do a big turnaround and just not see the need to see all these videos posted that mean nothing.
There's also been some neurological studies done, and the last thing I heard on a podcast, I'm afraid I can't refer to it because I don't remember which one, but what this person was saying is that our attention spans are so fragmented that it's starting to change the way the human brain works and processes information. I think if you think about that for a second, if you can, that probably makes a lot of sense because just go back even to when we only had email, right? Of course, Uli still, after 25 years, can't deal with his, but you know, you've had a quarter of a century to get that right.
He is very old.
But even when you just had email, it was already, well, this is going to really make a couple of us sound old, but you know, AOL in the back in the day when it's, you've got mail, and then you immediately looked at what it was, and it was maybe something from AOL saying something. That already began this fragmentation. And some of you may argue that young people, you know, the ones who were born and 3 days later they had the iPad and were playing the game and learned the parents' password. I mean, that's practically true. Those people, when they grow up, will they have solved this problem of brain fragmentation? Anybody have any ideas on that?
I think the answer,
those of you who have...
Yeah, I think the answer is yes. There's a lot you can do with your social media in terms of filtering and managing the content that comes at you. And I'm constantly fiddling around with my filters depending on what I'm interested in. But every now and then I throw all caution to the wind and just take the filters off and let it all wash over me, because inevitably there'll be nuggets of really good stuff buried in there that otherwise you wouldn't see because the filters will take it out. But you've got to be in a position to be receptive to deal with this huge flow of information. And it's fun every now and then.
It does.
But you just don't want to have that on 24 hours a day because your brain will explode.
Now, it does take work, and it also takes the realization that there are algorithms behind this, and Zuck and his team spend a lot of hours and a lot of money showing you what they think they want you to see. Kathleen, I saw you.
Yeah, I was just going to say it's an investment. You have to train the algorithm to send you what you want, because like I filter out all the, clickbait posts and things like that, but I love seeing like the SpaceX, launches and things like that. So that's kind of how I use it, and I filter out what I don't want to see, and every once in a while something slips through, but you just have to keep.
You're right, but there's a danger that if you filter out too much, it could be dangerous because you're missing.
You're in the bubble.
Yeah, you're being fed just the things you want to see, and you end up voting for certain politicians in elections and things like that.
Suddenly I realized why Kathleen never pressed like on my hats on Fridays. I'm filtered out. Well, I mean, we're in a toy stage, and when new technology comes, there's always rumors of sickness or brain damage or stuff like that. When the internet came, there was talk about the internet sickness, and now you're repeating stuff like that. I'm just waiting for the internet religion that will complete this story. But the toy stage is where we're at. We haven't really realized what happens to us. We're having a conference in a city and a country with a bad history. I visited the DDR museum, which is practically below us, and for their free Wi-Fi, they required you to authenticate with Facebook. Oops, the irony. Okay, a museum about a country spying on its people, allowing Facebook to spy on what I'm doing. I think a risk here is the damage that can be done to Kathleen. When I look at all her filters in the cloud, I will know so much about her. But the good thing is that young people have started to understand this. They have multiple personas.
Yes.
They confuse the algorithms. They play roles on the net. So it's getting harder and harder to find out what your kid is doing, which is bloody irritating. But I really want these filters, these algorithms to work for me, not for someone else. I can pay for that. And I want them to be local to me in my cloud, not anyone else's cloud, because there's a lot of privacy involved. Look at what Tim's doing. He's trying to give the power of privacy to the users, removing it from the cloud in IoT. The rest of the IoT business have business models where they basically give you something in return for your data, and the whole business profit is coming from selling your data to third parties. That is really weird. So we need to leave the toy stage. We need to get control over our personas, controls over those filter algorithms. We need to get privacy back, and that's something we need to remember. Go to the DDR museum, and you'll understand why Snowden did what he did and why we need more crypto.
Okay, we have to wait for the general election to see who is the chancellor next year to invite it and make that sorted out with the DDR museum.
Does anyone make a parallel, this social network thing? LinkedIn started out to be a kind of a professional directory, and as anyone who knows who's on it now, by the way, I quit LinkedIn when Microsoft bought it. Not just because they bought it, but because I thought it started to get a little ridiculous, and it was yet another thing to put hours in, and I really don't have a dog in that race. But LinkedIn is this directory, and if you start to think for 1 second about what they have not your buddies, your friends, and this one took a drink. They have some serious SH out there. They know who's talking to who. They know the deals. And just with a little bit more sniffing.
They think they know.
Well, they think I don't know how much is encrypted either. Can anybody comment on LinkedIn and how that's
It's not that. They're reliant upon the links and the stuff that people put in. If you look at mine, I mean, it's so kind of frenetic. If anybody can interpolate anything from my LinkedIn feed, good luck to you.
But they do have all your connections, I assume. That can't be...
Yeah, but a lot of them are random.
Shame on you.
Yeah, it's great.
LinkedIn suffers from the same issues that the likes of Facebook. does. You know, you may think you have targeted metadata on somebody. In reality, you don't. You know, you have vague metadata, a subset of which will approximate their business relationships. But the problem with it, just like Facebook, is noise.
Yes.
I get dozens of connection requests every day, and every flipping one has sales this or business development that in the title. LinkedIn's revenue model is charging people for the ability to sell shit to other people. And that can't be a long-term, you know, business model. There is the Facebook effect with LinkedIn, that can you be in business today and not be on LinkedIn? I'm going back to Facebook. Personally, it's a struggle to not be on Facebook and still find out what your friends are doing. I had a mate who tried to commit suicide, and I didn't know. All the cries for help and everybody else finding out about it was on Facebook. I'm not. I didn't know. And so we have to be careful dismissing it as a toy, that we need something to replace it, because society has sort of moved on and become dependent on it as a means of communication, however imperfect and noisy it is. And LinkedIn is in a similar place in the business world.
LinkedIn is doing a lot of there's a lot of publishing on it now. Since I left, that has been developed where people it's like a blogging type thing, and it's gotten richer. So it kind of looks a little bit like Medium, which is nothing but editorials and blogs and things. But when you look at it, my view of that is that if people are putting out things that have the value added and it doesn't say, and if you're interested, call me at 800. If it doesn't have that tone to it, then it could be valuable because people see that and they see what you're saying, and hopefully that you know what you're talking about. I think that's one of the number one things on any social network. As someone who has employed 2 different people, finding them on a social network, actually Usenet in one case, believe it or not, where talk about chaos and weird stuff. I was on a news group and was watching somebody's responses to technical questions, and there was never an RTFM or anything like that. And every answer he had was a good one. It wasn't, well, contact me and so on. So finally, I got in touch with this person, and he worked for us under not even a contract. He just worked for us when we needed him and when he was available for many years, and he was perfectly trusted by us. My recommendation, and I said this at AmuCon, what year was that? Oh, you weren't there, James. Who was at AmuCon, by the way? Right, we met there probably. How many years ago was that? 8? So I did a talk there about this exact same thing that I just said, except that it wasn't the same channels. But that's the one thing you never want to forget, is that when you're talking, whether it's on Facebook, Twitter, whatever, this is you selling yourself. So when showing who you are, basically. So as those of you here, you're professionals, if you're acting, not even for your company, but just who you are, Zoa, for example, we know, or James, whatever you're saying, people who are reading it are going to say, oh, this person knows what they're talking about. And I think it's also, to come full circle, one of the best things about Kamailio world is that it's not only is it not only about Kamailio, but it's also a great way to, as you network in person with people, you may meet people who are not necessarily of a particular use to you, or you're not useful to them professionally, and yet 3 months from now, something is going to come up, some project or something, and you're going to know that Tim Panton is the guy, or you're going to know that James Bodie or Simon's company, or, well, obviously Allison, if you need that kind of service. And Zoiper, the folks are here. You need some kind of an iteration of Zoiper. You know, that's the finest aspect of all of these things. Yeah. And it's never going to be as good as it is right here today, yesterday, today, tomorrow, live.
Yeah, I think that's the brilliant thing about Kamailio World. Everybody in here is valuable because you've all self-selected to be here. And by doing that, you've exhibited a certain amount of focus, and you clearly get it. So, yeah, you're all really interesting. And I come for the people, to be perfectly honest, because there's always brilliant people here.
And you're also extremely important in pushing the industry forward, pushing in the right directions, applying new technologies. Remember my to-do list. Go home, from this meeting with more crypto, IPv6, and you'll be fine. You'll be strong in your career development. Right.
I love to hear things sold that are not for profit. Isn't that nice? So how do we end this thing? Because everybody's tired of hearing me. Who's going to say something that brings us to someplace? That would be my conclusion.
Kathleen, you're very good.
Daniel.
Mine, okay, what I would like to hear, okay, all this data mining is mainly applied to all this kind of texting and tagging and so on. Do you think the artificial intelligence will catch up soon in the way that they can easily, I mean, now with the voice, it's getting a bit scary, right? We have this all Amazon, Google boxes at your home. You say whatever words, and they start the personal assistants. So that's kind of getting a bit more scary because, like, we used to think that telephony was harder to intercept, but maybe not that was a big privacy concern of intercepting, but actually interpreting in real time. It required a lot of resources, technical resources, then replaying. You had to do it later, of course, unless you're some big agency around big government. But now, like, you pay less than $100 or around that, and you get something that really understands your voice and so on, and it's kind of how it's gonna be with video and everything on, like, okay, you choose to be on Facebook, you choose to be on LinkedIn, but then you still have to go to do groceries, and everyone can film you or record you, and then because they are on Facebook, they kind of, oh, Daniel's passing or buying milk. Or do you think that's gonna invade? Because again, texting and tagging was your choice, but now moving around, you have to do it. And with these technologies, practically, even if you don't want to be part of the network, people will drag you in because analyzing this will be like real time. So the impact of this on our future, privacy and so on, I would like to hear from you and, of course, audience.
Well, I can limit your question to a specific area where I feel more comfortable, which is internet technology. And to summarize what we now know about the pervasive surveillance on the internet was very well summarized by the IETF, a global group of engineers from all over the world. They can't agree on anything. Any decision takes 4 or 5 years. They agreed extremely quickly that this surveillance on the net was to be seen as an attack and had to be treated that way. And because of that policy statement that everyone agreed on in a very, very rapid process, we're now moving towards more privacy in every protocol. We have more security reviews. We have whole new ways of doing things coming up. Starting point will be TLS 1.3 coming. So for internet technology, there has been a reaction. There is a technology movement that I want all of you to join. But another part is the Dan Jenkins part. Dan, you're still with us? He's outside, so I can say anything I want about him. Imagine Alison getting a call saying, "Hello, this is your Kamailio assistant. We noticed that you haven't had a conversation with your mother for 10 days. And by the way, the last 5 conversations you have with her had a very aggressive voice. So we suggest, based on the statistics in your Kamailio server, that you place a call and talk nicely with her. Thank you."
Have you been listening in?
Of course. And your calls have to be a bit more fun. They're boring.
Okay, I think that's it, unless anybody else would like to chime in on any of the topics, or anything, really. Yeah?
Oh, Daniel.
So if you don't know Dan,
Yeah, we know Daniel.
He's also doing a lot with Debian Free Software Foundation, quite concerned on privacy. So
So this is going to be a heavy question. I can feel it coming.
Yes, I'd just like to challenge the idea that that society is dependent on these platforms. I mean, who's ever used a service like TripAdvisor to find a restaurant?
Yeah.
Who's used Google Maps to find a restaurant?
All the time.
Okay. Who found restaurants before TripAdvisor or Google Maps?
Well, we all did.
Yeah. So we're not dependent. We can find food if we want to. Now, who's found restaurants recently that are not on Google Maps or TripAdvisor? Yeah? You found good restaurants that are not actually in the Google Maps and not in TripAdvisor. So there's a whole world out there that these platforms don't cover very well, or even a whole world that they deliberately don't cover. So if you're using something like Facebook or LinkedIn, you don't see what you don't see, do you? You don't see the people who are not there, who are perfectly good opportunities, to talk to, people you might meet at a conference. There's a whole world out there that they don't have on those platforms. And there are still millions, in fact, billions of people who are not on those platforms, who are very interesting people to meet. So I would like to challenge the idea that we need these services. People choose to use these services because they feel empowered in some way, or because they feel it's the least resistance to take that path. It's not something that we need, like we need to eat or we need to sleep.
But we don't need computers either.
Okay, so the question was, because it's in the back, this is valid for us, it will be valid for our kids? And then Fred, okay. I like the audience getting in.
I can answer your question from personal experience. So here's my phone, and this is a Note 3. Its predecessor was the Galaxy S3. And I gave that phone to my cousin when he was 13. He was very keen to get it. He was the last boy in his school who did not have a mobile phone at that age. And the next Christmas, he was actually going to come and stay with us. But he couldn't, because he had to stay home and do homework, because he had almost failed school that year with the phone that I gave him the previous Christmas. People feel this pressure. His parents felt the pressure to give him a phone because every other child had the phone. Every other child was on WhatsApp and on Facebook. But did it help him? Absolutely not. Do I regret giving him the phone? Yes. But this is what's happening in the world today. And people make these experiments, or they follow the crowd, they go with the flow, and they learn, because people do make mistakes, but people learn from their mistakes. And people are now starting to ask questions about these things. And as experts, we can give them answers because we've probably seen it before. The way that the human mind works has not actually changed that much. A very interesting book that I read recently is a book called Busy by a man called Tony Crabb. And he makes an argument that over many centuries, people formed villages with a maximum size of about 150 people. Because that's all that the human mind can get our head around. That if you have 300 friends on Facebook, or you have 15,000 followers on Twitter, your mind simply can't manage that. If you have people sending you text messages or WhatsApp messages while you're at dinner or at a conference like this or whatever, I just received several messages just as I came in. And if I start thinking about those, I'm not going to be thinking about what's going on here, because our minds don't work that way. That this kind of constant communication and these electronic worlds that people live in are more like junk food. than than what our mind really needs.
So my thought on the Facebook with the kids is the mom effect, and we saw it dramatically when moms started getting on, then the kids started getting away, right? So you had a huge drop off, and then that worked with WhatsApp and all the other ones. When their moms came on, last thing they want to do is start posting and having mom call them out on things. So you see a huge loss of young generation. They come up with their own things. At least that's how we had it in the States. And it's a big shift in how Facebook has been going on. And one of the concerns that we're having in the States, and I don't know if it's over here too, is some of the crimes that are being broadcast on that kind of media. But as far as the kids, no one wants to do what their parents are doing. Just flat out, generational.
So we really need James's mother to come here. Mr. Pocock, I'm really disappointed with you. I was hoping you would talk about federations and the need for federations. Hint, hint.
It was not the topic now, it was the privacy. But if you want federation, I'm sure that Daniel can keep you over the night here.
Well, federation.
No.
I'll just answer that quickly. Federation is not everything. Federation is good for some use cases. I think it's good for small businesses and for large organisations. But there are also a lot of interesting peer-to-peer technologies emerging. Has anyone seen Ring? Who's seen Ring?
The doorbell thing?
Yeah, from Savoir-Faire Linux. The Ring developers were in the main track at FOSDEM. It's a great product. It uses a distributed hash table. So unlike Federation, there's no central server. So it's more peer-to-peer like BitTorrent or Bitcoin. So this is potentially the way of the future for private interpersonal communications. If you want to call your family members, or if you want to be able to call your lawyer or your doctor and have a completely private communication, then that may well be the way to go about it. So federation has its place, and I think it's important, and federation is a lot better than having a world where everyone uses Gmail or Facebook. But peer-to-peer may be the ultimate solution.
So yeah, a bit on the federation and maybe all this kind of hierarchical connectivity, and I guess also James does a bit of all that in the future might transform, like having microcells serving small groups that then they interconnect. And I think the guys from Cognitor Dynamics from Hoverfocus with the talk today, they show that kind of a transformation. Of course, it's still kind of a research now, changing from like a big telco to a mesh of cells. In the past, that was not possible because of the cost. Think about having antennas, buying yourself, and then radio power that you needed to communicate. But now we have the internet, we have Ola here pushing us on crypto, so communicating over the internet would be sort out, but we still want not to share the metadata. So I'll have a cell in my home. If I want to chat with my neighbors, probably I can do it without letting the provider know that. With the help of technology getting now cheaper and cheaper, and all these micro nano cells, and putting a Raspberry Pi just behind it with your Asterix Kamailio, probably we'll see some projects emerging on this one, having some solution.
That's the point, Michael. Now, things have advanced so that you can become your own provider. That's the exciting bit. So 2 years ago, you had to go to a big mobile network operator and take the SIM card.
We can get a bit more minutes, so no worries. We can still stay longer. The people will prepare the drinks.
I heard there were drinks out there, no?
Now they are preparing, but they are not yet serviced, so don't worry, you'll get the drinks if you need to talk more. Okay, James.
You cut me off there.
I do need to interject one thing. Is Karsten Horstman here?
Yeah, It's no.
Good, okay, because you weren't here, you almost lost that shirt. You won, but you almost lost. Okay, James.
Yeah. Thanks for that. Yeah, the important thing here is that the cryptography and all the bits and pieces that you need to establish your own identity and the processing that you need to be able to run the network part of it, that 2 or 3 years ago you had to go to a big mobile network operator to do, is now reaching the stage where you can now do it yourself.
Yes. Is this a plug coming on somehow?
Oh, God, that was hard work, wasn't it?
Okay, do it yourself. We have had a great day. We have another great day ahead of us in this conference, meeting, mingling, discussing where to go, sharing ideas, sharing inspiration, discussing TLS 1.3 and other important methods.
IPv6.
IPv6.
So the question is, thank you. Question is where next? David Duffett told us about Astrocon this fall. I have to say a thank you to Saul here and David there for organizing the real-time dev room at FOSDEM. FOSDEM in February will be a great meeting place for all techies. But we also have hosts of shows here where we meet regularly. Kathleen, tell me about your show.
Yeah, we also have a conference in August, Chicago, Illinois, 7th through the 11th. ClueCon, yeah. But we also do ClueCon Weekly, so you can check it out. We stream it to YouTube, or you can join the call. It's open to everybody, and we try and get guests on. It's every Wednesday at noon Central U.S. time.
And it's jolly good.
It is. We have good guests.
Randy?
Very good. No, I'm happy to. So that's your primary rendezvous every week is Wednesday at 12 noon Eastern. And then there's Friday, unmissable Friday VUC at 12 noon Eastern as well. Anybody else doing any conferences that are repeating? There are, I think, but...
So for us here, which we don't know what's that Eastern, Central, so it's more like...
6 p.m.
6
Central
p.m.
European.
Okay, 6
p.m. The reason we say Eastern Time, Daniel, is because originally there was a server that ran on Eastern Time. The trouble is that 2 weeks of the year, as you know, we are 1 week later, 1 hour later than...
No, I know. I just wanted
to
somehow translate it because these time zones are a nightmare, even in VoIP, how many lost subsidiary or money due to time zones. And maybe that would be a good discussion at one of the VoIP-related events because time is passing and soon will elapse that integer value of the timestamps. That has a bit more pressure on people working on IT, but still 20 years, but probably we started the project more or less 20 years ago. So
time zones. In the SIP world, we don't care about time zones. The SIP date header is only GMT.
Quite right, too.
That's our timing.
That's right.
Time zones are for email and old technologies.
But then Zoiper has time header, where is Zoa? I wanted to see if Zoiper has time. Do you have the date header in SIP? Because Mr. Ole said that that's a common in SIP. I haven't seen it, but not with you. Okay, so it's not common then.
Just because SUA doesn't have it doesn't mean anything.
No, I haven't seen it on the network. Sometimes I keep watching a lot of SIP traffic,
Have a list of feature requests.
Yeah, I don't believe that there's a feature that's not in Zoiper, actually, because it's got everything else.
No, then what's on the standards? We know that we can't really sit always on the live. Would make our life easier because actually SIP was designed for IPv6 without NAT. Don't tell to Ole, but then... We got a good living out of this consultancy, right? Because they didn't need...
Yeah, we need more NATs. NATs in every network. Multiple layers of NATs. NAT.
Carrier grade NAT. NATs, right? We call it actually in some countries, NATs means money.
Yeah, IP version 7 will be NATs everywhere.
Okay, so maybe
That would be Tor.
I think it's 3 minutes past drink time.
So
Can I just make a suggestion? For people who want to actually feel like we're taking a step with privacy, maybe try to install the Ring app on your phone and try it with one other person tonight when you're having a drink. Because it'll be a good way to get contacts into your phone without using LinkedIn. But you'll also be trying an app that's really innovative, that's 100% open source, and that doesn't depend on any central server. So.
Yeah, a lot of us use in fact, we use just about everything, don't we, Randy?
Wire, get on Wire, wire.com.
We habitually try everything that's new. And the number of identities we've got on different nets is ridiculous, really, isn't it?
It is.
But if you think it's really good, Daniel, perhaps you ought to get the guys from Ring onto the VUC, and then we'll give it a good kick test and see whether we can break it.
Did I mention that in 10 days from now, Friday, May 19th, Richard M. Stallman is going to be live on the VUC in video? You can call in and annoy him, and he'll probably leave, but watch. Should be a very interesting session on the VUC. And by the way, this Friday, it's Media Soup. You know those folks? Somebody say that name.
Media Soup?
Yes.
Iñaki.
Iñaki, yes.
Media Soup. It's a very, very interesting. Now they've got DV.io, and I don't know if they're Media Soup IO or Media Soup org or Media. So look up Media Soup though. It's a very interesting. It's a video conference, but maybe not only a video conference. Interesting stuff, and those folks are pretty clever, by the way.
Yeah, and this is one of the brilliant things about VUC. You have this eclectic mix of all these different things, and it's different every week. And okay, some are better than others, but on balance.
All right, enough plugs, drinks.
So for Iñaki, just to give a couple of words, he was really one of very active developers still around the project, but more into the WebRTC, but it's one of the Kamailio developers in the past, couple of good contributions on IP-related operations and so on. So you can, he's not here, but it's one of our guys. So.
Well, Iñaki is a brilliant mind and also the author of, one of the authors of SIP over WebSockets RFCs. Media Soup is a Node.js server that handles media in totally new ways, and it's going to be really exciting to hear the details about it on VUC. So
then you can connect on IRC, which is this brand new technology I've been hearing about.
IRC.
Text chat.